Hello students, welcome back. In this video, we're going to put our finishing touches on Factory Frenzy. We're going to add some game polish, some visual systems that are going to make our game that much more engaging, that much more fun to play. And we're going to focus on three primary systems. So first, we're going to implement a particle system. So anytime we score a widget in its correct box, we'll send out particles in all directions. Anytime we smash a bomb, we'll send out particles in all directions. And this will make our game, really engaging and exciting to see those explosion of particles. So first, we're going to make a particle system. Second, we're going to create a floating text system. So anytime we score and get time added to our deadline, we're going to have a floating time kind of go up showing the addition of time that we create. It will not only flow up into our HUD, but it'll fade in time. So it'll be a nice, really cool effect. And we'll also have a negative time effect. So anytime we lose time on our deadline, we'll have something that says like -3 seconds floating up, and we'll probably change their color as well. And then our third and final visual system is we'll add some new overlays to our screen. I think we'll have one already in place here in this video for when we are on our shutdown. We'll have like a nice green overlay that sits over our screen. But as we get close to our deadline timer running out, we'll have a red flashing overlay that warns the player that they are about to run out of time. So let's head to the computer screen and let's dive into adding these visual systems here in our game polish lesson. So I have lesson 8's starter file open here in vscode.dev, but I'm just going to minimize this folder or file right now, and I'm going to open that file directly. So we'll come over here to Factory Frenzy, we'll open up lesson 8, and I'll open up my starter file. So let's take a look at what we have right now in our game polish. So, all right, I can pick that up, put it down. Indicate any particles? All right, no particles. No floating time telling me I'm doing a good job getting some extra time here. Nothing. Although some weird stuff is happening up here. I'm not really sure what that is. We're going to have to take a look at that. I'd love to see a power up, a shutdown. Can I smash a bomb? All right, so I can smash a bomb. Oh, maybe that's something about you can sort of see it kind of changes colors, right? Maybe this is like my floating text that I would eventually get on the screen. I'm not sure about that. We're going to have to take a look at that. We're going to have to see how that is working. Do I get no power? Okay, here's a power up. So let's see, shutdown, and there's that nice overlay, that like green color that shows that the game is frozen. All right, so now let's try to go implement some of these other visual systems into our game. So let's start with lesson number 1, or mission number 1 here. It says define the polish constants. So we're adding some new systems to our game. So our new systems should have some constants in the student edit zone. These are the variables that we can tweak and adjust, like dials or knobs, to change how these systems look, play, and feel within our game. So we've got systems for our player, for our lanes, for the boxes that are catching our widgets. For our widgets, we've got systems for our ramp. We've got our penalty systems here, our bombs and our shutdowns, and now we are working on our polish systems. So we said we were going to add a particle system, so we've got a lot of variables here for our particles. So the first thing is the particles per event. So we're going to spawn particles when let's think about it. When we score a correct widget, when we smash a bomb, when we maybe hit a shutdown, we'll have some particles go off. So we got lots of particle events. So we're just going to classify it here as particle event. And now, how many particles do we want to actually create each time one of those events occur? So right now it's set to 1, which would be super, super boring. I'm going to change it to 30. I think 30 is a good number here for this. Now, those particles, all 30 of them, they're not going to all travel at the same speed. They're going to have random speeds between some lower and higher bounds, some minimum and maximum value. And so this is going to create like a firework effect. Some are going to shoot off really fast, some are going to move slower. So my minimum speed I will set to be 90, and my maximum speed I will set to be 450. Each particle will also have a different lifetime, so they'll be on the screen for different amounts of time. Some will burn out quick, some will burn out over a longer period of time. So my minimum seconds, I don't know, I picked 0.22, and my maximum seconds will be 0.75. And then they're going to have varying sizes as well. So my minimum size is 4 and my maximum size is 10. So there are my particle systems. All right, so next we have a floating text system. And so that floating text, I think it's sort of over here, but it's doing a really poor job. I mean, I really want it to like float right here in the center and then disappear. Well, right now our floating text's life in seconds is 5 seconds. That seems way too high. I'm going to do 1 second, 1.0 seconds. And our floating text speed, how fast is it going to move upwards? I'll set it to 36. All right, and then lastly, I have my load time warning. Eventually, when our deadline timer gets to be at a certain time, I want to flash a red overlay to the screen. 1 second seems not like a good warning. Your game is pretty much done at that point. There's no need to warn you that your game is about to end because it's already over. So let's set it to 6 seconds. We'll give them a little bit of a warning. All right, mission 1, our constants for the polish system is done. But let's scroll down. Let's see what else we got here for these polish systems. So in my color palette, I am adding, positive text color, negative text color, and order complete text color. I bet those are going to be used for our floating text system that we're about to create. And let's go a little bit further. In my gameplay variables, what new variables do I add to my game here? Well, I add a new array for all of the particles that I'm about to create. So that sort of makes sense. I got to put them somewhere. And so I'll put them in this array, and then we'll run through the array with a for loop. And same thing with my floating texts. As I create a bunch of floating texts, they need to be stored somewhere. So I'm going to store them in that array. All right, now that we're familiar with these polish systems, let's hit Control F and search for mission number 2. Mission number 2 says we need to reset the polish state. So we're going to reset all polish variables at the start of the game. So we got to clear our particles, our floating text, our timers, anything of that nature. So anytime we restart our game, right, we run reset game to defaults. So we clear out our lanes, we rebuild those lanes, we reposition our player, we get our boxes set up, we empty out our widgets, we empty out our order, we reset our ramp, all that great stuff, right? So now we want to do the exact same thing. We want to reset the particle system and reset the floating text system. So if there were any particles on the screen, they were in that array, we're going to wipe that array out so they don't appear when we restart the game. Same thing with our floating texts. So we're going to wipe out that array or that container. It's gone. Get out of here. Mission number 2 is complete. That was actually not too bad. That actually felt really good. On to mission 3. Mission 3, we are in a generate particle data function. Okay, so particles are like objects that we have to put into our world. Much like widgets, much like orders, we had generate widget data, spawn widget, and update widgets. We have generate particle data. We have spawn particles, and we have update particles. So this system is repeatable, right? We did it for widgets, we did it for orders, and we're doing it for particles. And let's just see, are we calling update particles every frame of our game? Where do we go to check that? We go to our P5 draw function. So here are our default P5 functions, setup and draw. Draw, what are we doing? If the current game mode is play, we're updating our ramp, our deadline, our shutdown, our belt, our player, our widgets. And we are now updating our visual systems, our particles and our floating texts. And they both get access to our DT variable, the amount of time that it has taken for one frame to elapse. So that is going to be special for us. So that's going to be good. All right, so in generate particle data, what do we want to do? Well, it looks like we want to generate the particle data, define the position, velocity, size, color, and lifetime. So here is the particle that I am returning. It has a lot of properties, an X property, a Y property, VX, Vy, so those are the horizontal and vertical speeds of the particle, a lifetime seconds, a max life seconds, a size, and a color. Okay, so what are we going to do here? Well, it looks like we got to actually set some of the data that's going to be used here. So my angle is just set to 1 right now. The speed is set to 1. The life seconds is set to 1, and the size is set to 1. So we're using all of those values down here. They shouldn't all be equal to 1. That's really bad. That's not going to be a random particle at all. It's just going to be a terrible particle. So what we're going to do is we are going to change those values. So let's take a look. First, our angle. Well, we want our angle to be random. This is the angle that it's going to shoot out at when it's created. And so we want our angle to be anywhere between 0 and something called 2 pi. So 0 to 2 pi is essentially a radians, a way to say 0 to 360 degrees. It's a full circle. So we're going to say 2 pi here. And then our speed, we want to randomly select our speed. So we're going to do random. And then our lowest value, I think we're going to use some of the constants we set for the particle system back there in mission 1. I had particle, I got to spell it right, particle speed min. All right, so that's going to be my second one right here, particle speed min, all the way to particle speed max. So that's going to be this first one, speed max. All right, so we're going to randomly select something between 90 and 450. Let's do something similar for our life seconds. I'll do random particle life min seconds to particle life max seconds. So there's our second one. All right, so we'll randomly select our particle to live for 0.22 seconds to 0.75 seconds. And then the size is exactly the same. So random particle size min, and then we'll go to particle size max. Awesome. So our data structure is now set. When we generate a particle, we're passing in an X, a Y, and a color. Because if you think about it, let's just think for a second. When I create a particle, I'm going to pass in the X and Y value of where I want to create it. Because if I score, let's just see, like if I smash this bomb, right there I want to make particles at its X and Y coordinate. If that red package gets scored, I want to create particles at its X and Y coordinate. And I want them to be the correct color here. So we're just going to pass that information into this function. So we'll see that in action here in a little bit. In fact, why don't we go to mission number 4? It says spawn particles on key events. So this finds us in process widget boxing. So remember, anytime a widget, and a widget can be a bomb, a red widget, a green widget, a blue widget, a yellow widget. The green widgets are shut down. We are going to check to see if the X position of our widget is past our belt width, and if it is, we call that process widget boxing for our particular widget. So we get the type, our box type. Is it red? Is it yellow? Is it blue? And now we have removal X and removal Y. We have the X value, the center. This is the center of the widget that we're removing, and the Y value, which is the center of our widget that we're removing in the vertical direction. And so now if we look, we say if widget.type is equal to bomb, we are going to spawn particles. And we're passing in removal X, removal Y, the center of the bomb, the center of the bomb, in the X direction and the Y direction, and the bomb's color. We should be able to, I think if we smash a bomb, we should see particles. Let's take a look. If we smash a bomb, do we see particles? Whoa, particles. That is highly rewarding. What if I score a package right? Let's see. If I get a widget right. Nope, nothing there. Well, that's a bummer. But our particles worked for bombs. See? Boom. All right, so let's see if we can get it for scoring a widget. So let's see. If widget type equals shutdown, we are also spawning particles where we're getting the widget's center X, center Y, and we're passing in the shutdown color. So we should be able to get a shutdown. If we smash a shutdown particle box, we should be able to get it. Let's see, can I get one? I know the spawn chance is low. Let's see if one pops up. If it doesn't, we can hack the code, right? We can hack the code and up our chance. Oh man, I could really use one. It's going fast now. I'll pause the video and let's see. Okay, here's one. And there's our green particle. So that worked too. So now what we got to do is we got to add it. There they are. They're green too. That looks pretty cool. All right, so now what if the widget type is just a regular box type, right? So if our widget type, red, blue, or green, is equal to the box type that we're in, or red, blue, or yellow is equal to our box type of red, blue, or yellow, we want to also spawn some particles. So let's take a look here. So we're going to say, all right, If that's the case, we have them in the correct lane, then we are going to spawn some particles. So we'll say spawn particles, and we saw we need the center X and center Y of the thing we're removing. We have variables for those now, removal X and removal Y, and then we need a color. Well, our color is going to be our variable box color. It could be red, it could be yellow, it could be blue. We've already got that in that variable box color. So we are now set to create particles every time we score a correct widget. Let's take a look. All right, so there's that. I'll blow that bomb up. I got some nice, I'm taking a break here. All right, let's see. Do we get yellow particles here? Ooh, that looks fun. That's pretty great. All right, and then we should get red particles here. Put them right here on the edge. Ah, look at that. Awesome. And we should get blue particles here. Perfect. So I really love that system. That visual feedback is exceptionally nice. The next thing I want to do is I want to fix this floating text because that is just a little wonky for me. So let's go see what mission number 5 has in store for us. Mission number 5 says, it puts us in generate floating text data. Hey, look at this. It's like we're putting a new object into the world. So we have generate floating text data, spawn floating text, and update floating texts. And we know that that update floating text is getting called every single frame of our game from inside the P5 draw function. So let's go look at what's inside of generate floating text. It looks like we're going to take in a text and a color. So we're going to pass in what text we want to display and what color we want it to be. And we're returning an object that's got a bunch of properties, an X property, Y property, text property, color property, life seconds property, and max life seconds property. And right now, the text property is always set to hello. I don't think that's right. We don't want to always say hello. We said we're going to pass in some text, so let's use the text that we pass in. So that's how that's going to work. We also don't want our X property to always be 1 and our Y property to always be 1. I think that's why this is getting pushed over here in the corner, which is not good. So let's set it to the X property to be the center of our screen horizontally, which is width over 2. And then our Y property, well, we've got a variable, let's see, if I refresh the page here, we got a Y property for our HUD height. I want the text to start like down here and work its way into the HUD. Ooh, look at that. You can see it's centered now. So let's move it down quite a bit. So let's move it down to that HUD height variable. What is that? 60 pixels. And then I'm going to move it down another 40. All right. And so that should look good. Let's refresh the page here. All right. Let's score. Widget destroyed. All right. Oh, it looks like the text is just stacking up on top of each other. So that's not right because we know that text in order complete. Okay, so we know the text should eventually stop, right? The text should eventually go away. All right, it has a life second set to 1 and a max life second set to 1 right now. But I'm pretty sure if we go to our constants here for this, I have a floating text life in seconds. So I have how long I want this thing to live. I should probably use that in our object. So life seconds, when we create it, we'll set it to floating text life seconds. That's the second one here in our list. And the max version will also be floating text life seconds. Awesome. So I think our dictionary here is now complete. Let's go see where mission 6 brings us. So mission 6 has us drawing and animating the floating text. So it says, move the text upward over time and fade it out. All right, so we are calling this update floating text every single frame of the game. We're looping through our array of floating text objects, and we're looping through it backwards because eventually we are going to want to pull something out of that array. We're going to want to remove it out. So we go into the array and we grab a floating text at position I, and we store it in this variable. And right now, we are setting the floating text vertical property. We're subtracting it by 0. Well, we don't want to do that. Remember, we set a value called floating text float speed. All right, floating text float speed. How quick is it going to float? What is it set to? 36. So that's 36 pixels per second. But we've seen this before. Position is going to equal speed times time. So we got to multiply by our dt variable. And then we have that life seconds variable, which we set to our floating text life seconds, which is just 1 second right now. 1 second. So we have it set to 1 second, but we want to now take away from that because eventually when our life in seconds gets less than or equal to 0, so we run out of time, we run out of lifetime, we are splicing our floating text. We're saying, hey, get out of the array. We're going to remove you. So let's also subtract dt from it here. And let's see what happens now. All right, let's take a look. So I'm going to let this get in the wrong spot, and let's see if our text shows up. There it goes, and it floats right up. Awesome. Let's see. I got to get some right ones. So now I should get plus seconds, plus 1.5. All right, so that looks good. Let's get a bomb in here to wipe some things out. Oh, here, I'll put that in, and it should bomb widgets destroyed. All right, so our floating text is working really nice. This system is showing up. I like all the different colors. I'm very happy with it. We get our order complete. So mission number 6 is done. Let's look at mission number 7. Mission number 7 says, hey, let's add our warning overlay trigger to the game. So it says trigger the warning overlay when the time is low. So the last system that we want to have in place is once our timer gets low enough, we're going to flash a red screen to the over the gameplay window to let them know we're about to run out of time. So we want to trigger it. Let's go look at our draw functions. Maybe there's a draw function because we're in draw scene right now. We're going to draw a background, our belts, our boxes, our widgets, our particles, our player, our HUD, our floating text. And then if certain conditions are right, we'll draw our overlays, like our start overlay, our lose overlay. And you can see here we're drawing our shutdown overlay. So if our shutdown timer seconds is greater than 0, we're drawing that shutdown overlay. That was that green screen we saw at the beginning of the game. I don't know if I can find one again here. Let's just take a quick look. We'll see. I'll pause the video. Hey, look at that. I found one really quick. So there is that overlay. So we're drawing that overlay when our timer is active. So let's go look at that overlay. I bet we're going to have an overlay for our warning as well. So here's draw particles, draw player, draw HUD, draw our order, there's our draw floating texts, our ramp readout. All right, so here's our low time overlay, and here's our shutdown overlay. So for our shutdown overlay, we just said, hey, let's get an invisible marker. We're going to fill our paint with a paint bucket. It's this very transparent green color. And then we're going to draw a rectangle that basically sits over the whole window, except for the HUD. We're not going to have it sit over the HUD, so the HUD didn't get displayed. The HUD stayed completely intact. So now we want to look at our draw low time overlay. So we got to call this function way back up here in mission 7. That's the thing we got to have. So we're going to say if, and then we're going to put a question, and if the answer to that question is yes, we are going to call draw low time overlay. So how do we know we need to draw the low time overlay here? Well, I think we created a variable, a constant called low time warning seconds, right? And so we're going to check to see if our current deadline seconds, that's this number right here. We're going to check to see if it is less than low time warning seconds. Oh, not low time warning color, low time warning seconds. And if this question is yes, if the answer is yes, it is, then we are going to draw our low time overlay. So let's just see what happens right now. I'm going to pause the video so you don't have to watch it count down, and I'll get you back in here when we are close to, I think it's 6 seconds. All right, let's take a look. All right, here we come, 6 seconds. Now, ooh, we just get this red screen, which isn't bad. I mean, it's kind of a cool effect. It's not a bad effect, but I think we can make it a little bit better because I want it to flash. Sometimes, and the way we're going to make it flash is sometimes we will draw the overlay, sometimes we will not. Sometimes we'll draw it, sometimes we will not. So draw it, not, draw it, not, draw it, not. That is going to create our flash for us. So let's go to mission number 8, and let's talk about how we get it to not draw, because we know how to make it draw. if you look right here, I'm asking a question, if false. Well, get out of there, because false is always false. The answer to that question is always no. I want a question that is sometimes yes, sometimes no. And when it's yes, I'm going to return out of this function and not go through and do the rest of this code. So I will skip drawing it. And if the answer is no, we won't return, we will draw it. So we got to ask a question that is sometimes yes, sometimes no. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take the variable run time seconds, and we are going to see if it is divisible by 2. To check for divisibility, you use something called modulo division. So it is this percentage sign, and we're going to check to see if that modulo 2 is divisible or equal to 0 here. All right, so let's check that. Oh, but there's one last thing we have to do here. Runtime seconds is going to be a decimal value. So I want to make sure I call the floor function to chop off the decimal, and I only work with the integer part, so the whole number part. So we're going to check to see if the whole number part is divisible by 2. So this modulus sign right here, this percent sign, we'll check to see what the remainder is when we do division. So for example, like what's 6 divided by 2? It's 3. What is the remainder? The remainder is 0. The remainder is 0. There's nothing left over. What's 6 divided by 3? It's 2. The remainder is 0. What's 6 divided by 6? It's 1. The remainder is 0. So when we have divisibility, the remainder is 0. What's 6 divided by 5? Well, it's 1, and there is a remainder of 1. It's not 0, so it is not divisible. So what we're checking to see is, hey, if our runtime seconds, when we chop off all the decimal points, if it's divisible by 2, the remainder would be equal to 0, so we will return and just get out of that function. So let's take a look. Let's see if we now start flashing. And I'll pause the video. I'll come back when we are close to 6 seconds. All right, so let's take a look. Here we go. Are we going to get flashing? Well, it's flashing. It's just really slow. I don't know. You saw it like it was red, nothing, red, and then we died. So we want to speed up the flash. So the way we're going to speed up the flash is we're going to take runtime seconds, which is like 1.01, 1.02, 1.03, and we're just chopping off the decimal. So it's 1 for a really long time. And let's speed it up by multiplying by some number. I'll multiply by 8. So it'll be 8 times as fast now. So now let's take a look. I'll just make sure I click off so we can see it. And let's run this and see how we do. All right. We'll pause the video. All right. So we're coming up here. We're ending quickly. And there is our flash. That looks a lot better. I like that fast movement of our flash. Awesome. All right, so the last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to remove my ramp. I no longer need that because the game is essentially done. So let's take out that debug line. So let's go to our draw HUD function. So our draw HUD function right here is where we were drawing that ramp readout. I no longer need that. The game is pretty much in its final playable state. So I'll comment that out. And now our ramp will no longer be in existence. So that looks good here. So our ramp is gone. And we have our final play state. And let's just take a look at what we get. All right. Ooh, it sort of looks like my font just got messed up a bit when we commented the ramp out. So we got to fix that. I think we have to fix that. So let's head to the computer screen. Let's take a look. Okay, to fix that issue, in draw floating texts, I think my marker was just a little too thick. So I got to explicitly call no stroke here. I'll make sure to have that line included in the version that you're working with, but mine did not have that. So I'm going to put that in right now. So now before I draw my floating text, I pick up my marker with it's invisible so we don't see the outline. And then I put my paint color in here for draw color. All right, so with that, our game is complete. Let's do a play test here. I'm going to reset my game. Factory Frenzy. The conveyor never stops. Grab, sort, ship. How long can you keep it up? Let's take a look. Let's see how many points I can score. I'm going to fulfill my orders. All right, so at this point, you could put me on 2 times speed and watch me play it exceptionally fast. I'm going to blow that bomb up. I'm going to move my packages down, get some extra time on my clock because I'm getting extra widgets placed. And here we go. I'm going to complete my order. The order will be completed. Perfect. So my first order is completed. I got 100 points for that. All right. I got to put the yellow widgets down below, the blue widgets up top. Ooh, here's a freeze. I'm going to use it right now to move the 2 blues. Perfect. Oh, and that's good because I got 3 blues in that order. Smash the bomb. I'm going to smash the... Oh, no, I missed the bomb. All those blue widgets were destroyed. Now, here's a nice thing. In this feature, I added it so that if a green widget gets in there, you get some extra time for it. Because if you don't use the... Oh, that was silly. Uh-oh. I'm getting frazzled now. Okay, let's see. Get some time back. Get some time back. Smash that. Oh, I got a freeze. That freeze didn't really help me at all. Let's see if I can complete this order. All right, get some extra time. Put the blue one here, a blue one here. Blue, red. Okay, here's my order. Awesome. Oh my goodness, this order is crazy. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this one. Okay, let's see. I got to say, this is pretty fun. Oh, I missed that one. My widgets were destroyed. I got to get my red widgets. Ah, what is happening? Oh no, there's the red warning. And I have been fired. Not too bad. I got 400 points there. I'm pretty happy there. I think I am a high quality employee. Instead of getting fired, I should have been promoted for the great work that I did there in Factory Frenzy. I hope you're pretty, I hope you feel like you did great work as well. Starting at lesson 1, where our game was completely unplayable, and getting all the way to where we are now with this really fun game, and it's hectic, it's chaotic, and it's slightly addicting. That is great work, and so you should be proud of yourself for what you have accomplished. So I think this is a wonderful place to stop, and I will see you in our next video.